Hello and welcome to the March 2019 Sunshine Summit. My name is Heather and I am your host. This is a week of live streams to recognise and celebrate connections brought to you in association with Geeks Rising. We have been going live for 2 days now. This is day 2, and this morning we were joined by Ducky McDuckson and yesterday by Csomo of the Varmints podcast. Today I am incredibly grateful to be joined by Jim Collison, who is the host of Home Gadget Geeks, and welcome to the Sunshine Summit, Jim.
Thanks, Heather. Great to be on. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You've been up for a couple days. I think tonight you need to get some sleep.
I will definitely have a good early night after this one. But thank you for being here. I want to say a shout out and a hi to everyone in the live chat today. It is a live stream event. We've got Luke from Luke Who's Talking, a podcast that he was on the Sunshine Summit in August last year. We've got Regen Racing Dean, who is going to be later in the summit this week, and also Steph, another Sunshine Summit guest. So thank you guys for coming by. Yeah, we, Jim and I connected through Stargate Pioneer, SP as he's affectionately known, through Better Podcasting, and he connected us together as a potential guest for the Home Gadget Geeks show. And so thank you so much for having me on board in January 2018.
Yeah, it was good to have you. I think, we on Home Gadget Geeks try to talk about some of the latest, gadgets we say that find their way into your home. And you had this solar story to tell, which was pretty awesome. I don't get a lot of guests that are using a lot of solar. And so thanks for coming on. And it was great to make a connection. I'll thank SP2 as well for doing that. He's a listener to the Home Gadget Geeks as well. And he's like, hey, I got this great person you need to meet. So thanks for taking the time to come on. And we'll have to have you back on and catch up with some of you were doing some new stuff and you had some other stuff going on. So we probably need to have you back on to kind of catch up.
That would be awesome. I have had a few new additions, just minor ones to the system since then, so that would be cool to catch up about that.
No, it would indeed.
Yeah. You've got, back then, I think it was episode 341, and you're up to like 393 or something now. You've done a lot of these.
Yeah, pretty dumb, isn't it? It's pretty crazy how these things start stacking up on each other. We're coming up on 400. So
yeah.
If you would have asked me as a teenager, if I would have done 400 of anything, I'm such an inconsistent guy in the stuff that I do. I take a different way home from work every day. I never do the same thing twice. I can barely get through a book. I would have said you're crazy, but I've done 400 of Home Gadget Geeks. We've done 50 of Cyber Frontiers. I've done 600 maybe a Gallup in the time that we've been podcasting there. Yeah. So wow, it's like that's reaching 1,000 here pretty quick. Not to mention interviews, 300 with Dave Jackson. Some of those kinds of things that we've done. All of a sudden, it starts to stack up, and you're like, "Yikes! That's a lot. It's a lot of talking time." So.
It is. Yeah, and you record them live. Even Ask the Podcast Coach is done live, isn't it?
Yeah, everything is live. Yeah. I don't know how to not do a live podcast. So it's one of those things where I started live. It seemed to be the easiest thing to do, and I just don't know how to do it any other way. So I keep doing it live to the hard drive.
That's awesome. And you have the live chat too, and people come by there, and you've got a regular audience that make it, which is amazing. And they interact and ask questions there, and that's kind of what the Sunshine Summit is about, being able to bring people together in a live experience, hang out in the live chat, ask questions, and get to know us, and just be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, indeed. Love to have your feedback. I'll be watching chat as we're doing this, and so as we go through it, don't hesitate to ask questions.
Yeah. We were just talking before we went live about how this is technology is allowing us to do this, and it's amazing that we can connect this way through podcasting and through the magic of video calls and streaming systems like OBS to be able to broadcast this out there. And I am really grateful for the opportunity to have that, especially since when I talked to you back in January last year, I didn't have the internet capability that I have now.
So what changed? What did you upgrade so you got better internet?
So I pestered my internet service provider for about a month and a half, 2 months, and asked them to up my data speed. So I was getting like maybe 1 or 2 up, and now I have 5 up and 25 down.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you join the rest of the world when it comes to because 5 is really kind of the minimum for this. So you do good. I remember it was a little sketchy sometimes,
and I had to drop out and come back.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, great that you got it fixed. Good. I guess that's a lesson in perseverance, right? Of just staying on top of your service provider to say, no, I need better. What did they install some new hardware, or what
Yeah.
happened to get you? But okay.
Yeah,
Good.
they did. They were going to roll it out to everyone, but I kind of pushed to be on the forefront of that change because I knew what I had coming up. And so for August last year, in March 2018, I went to a friend's house and used their gigabit fiber internet, which was amazing. Like, that was incredible. Can't get that where I am out in the countryside here, so make do with just pushing for some new hardware. So they replaced the dish that's on my roof that connects to a tower and receives a signal from there, and then they also replaced my router twice. So.
Nice. That's a great Home Gadget Geek story, by the way, right? I mean, that's what we talk about on Home Gadget Geek. So good to hear that you got upgraded, that they were able to do that for you. I think it'll only continue to get better. I mean, good to hear they were thinking about it, planning about it, to do it anyways. But that's a good lesson, just kind of keep asking. You're super nice, Heather. So I imagine you only asked in nice ways to them, like, please, and it would be great if you do this. But that is with technology and things are moving so fast. We have gigabit Ethernet gigabit internet coming out to us here in Bellevue. And I'm pretty good. We're 15 up, we're 15 up and I don't know, 150 down. So it's pretty great where we're at right now, but it's going to get even faster.
That's amazing.
So I keep getting notices, hey, we're in your area. So I need to get signed up for it.
Yeah. I was polite, but I was also persistent because otherwise I would have got lost in the woodwork. Things sometimes take a really long time to get done here in New Zealand.
Yeah. I can only imagine. And in rural parts, I live here in Nebraska in the United States, middle of the country. Honestly, 5 minutes out of Omaha and you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And our rural friends, unfortunately, really, really struggle still. Most big chunks of the United States, kind of west of the Missouri River, are still very rural. And there's not a lot of great connectivity. My co-host on Theme Thursday, the Gallup webcast Theme Thursday, she's moving out to rural Nebraska here in the next couple months. And I'm a little worried that, like, I don't know if I'm going to have enough bandwidth for her.
Yeah. And
so it's a real problem. Like, I mean, there is a real digital divide. Sometimes we say that here in like big city versus, out in the suburbs, where the suburbs by far have the best connectivity, right? Inside a city, not always the best there either. I hear a lot of folks in like New York or DC or Atlanta and Los Angeles, San Francisco, they'll say they have a hard time getting consistent internet inside the city, which makes it, really hard.
Yeah.
So the suburbs seem to do really well. The burbs, as we like to call them, they seem to do really well. But our rural friends don't have it as well. So I feel for you out there. I'm good here in Omaha where I'm at, but you don't get too far away and it gets more and more difficult. Which, Heather, you'd asked me this question earlier and kind of alluded to it. We are getting more and more dependent on connecting this way, right?
Yes.
And as we get farther away from each other, we're able to connect more. Mm-hmm. But I think the trick is to actually connect more, right? We have this power, we have this ability, and I find with my customers that are around the world, what works best is if I actually call them and talk to them. And by the way, I never let them off the hook on audio only.
Okay.
That's no way to, you got to go video, right? Yeah. You got to be able to see them. And I think on a fairly regular basis, my co-host for Home Gadget Geeks, Mike Weger, he just lives across town and we maybe see each other once or twice a year. He lives across town.
Wow.
But because I see him every week, we have this connection that allows me to know him and know him really, really well.
Yeah.
It's all via video. And I would consider him a friend, like a friend I saw every day at work. And so there's incredible power in these connections, but it does take a little effort. It can't be a one and done. You still need to spend the time connecting with people. And I think you need to connect via video, and I think you need to do it regular.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have to admit that doing one-off events like 11 sessions in a week, but only twice a year makes it a little bit challenging. I've looked at sort of developing things and had people ask if I do the podcast, a video version of my podcast, which I'm working on in the background. So yeah.
It's surprisingly Home Gadget Geeks 393 episodes, all video. Well, is it all video? Yeah, most of it. Let's just say most of it's video.
Mm-hmm.
My video RSS feed, which I didn't think would be very popular, is one of the most popular ways for folks to get it, even though it's the biggest way. It's 400 to 500 meg download. You know, when you think about a regular podcast would be 60 meg at most, maybe for when you think about audio. And yet my listeners want to see it, right? There's this desire. As humans, we were designed to connect with each other, right? This is why I love the theme of what you're talking about here with the Sunshine Summit, because it really is all about connections. And just as humans, we were designed to connect to one another.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as far as podcasting goes, I think people want to see people. Mm-hmm. And even if it's just talking heads like you and I, right? We're here, we're talking, it's just the two of us. There's people in the chat room. People want to watch this. Yeah. And so I think we got to find good ways to give it to them if it's technically available.
Yeah, I agree. I love it, and I appreciate that it is hard for some people who aren't sort of confident in things, but that confidence comes through like the being regular about it, like you said. And there are people who are going to Twitch and other places and doing streaming as well. So it's streaming in itself is kind of growing in popularity, I guess, and different formats of podcasts and such. There's a podcast that I listen to that I like to watch the video version of. There's your shows, which are done live, which is awesome to catch live because then you can. It helps you show up for it too, I feel, as part of the audience. And it's the same with better podcasting. I love showing up to that one live to be able to have the interaction backwards and forwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. The accountability of live is a dynamic we don't often think about when we're doing these, is that something's different when you know you can interact with it or when you can change it, right? When you can, your comment may get read or you can, it's just as completely different. I've had a podcast where I've listened to it live and I stopped it halfway through and I never went back and listened to the second half because I'm like, oh, it's not live anymore. And it was a podcast kind of designed to be consumed live. So I do like that live accountability that it adds. And just because people know they can put stuff in the chat room, which by the way, those who are listening, we are watching the chat room. So if you want to chat with us that way as well, you can put stuff in the chat room. We'll talk back.
Yeah. Regen Racing Dean said, agree. Stuff takes time in New Zealand. He's down in Christchurch, so he's in the South Island. So it's going to be cool to have another New Zealand guest on the Sunshine Summit this week, and hopefully, fingers crossed, all the technology works for both of us since we're both at the bottom of the world.
Wouldn't that be funny if it's same country and it doesn't? But you can. Here we are, thousands of miles. I may be pretty close to being on the opposite side of the planet from you, and yet we're doing this like we're next door. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Luke said everyone's on the stream train. I don't know that Luke has actually started streaming yet, but he should get on it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's if you haven't started doing it, at least try it or record it that way, right? That's one of those things. You don't have to necessarily put a video feed out as part of the podcast, but recording it that way is pretty great.
Yeah. I noticed that Emily Prokop, she does her live recordings of Hate to Wait in Facebook. She does Facebook Lives, I think, in her Facebook group. So that's one way of doing it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. Luke said maybe one day.
Well, make that one day tomorrow or today. That's weird because it's already tomorrow for you guys, right? So what do I say? Make that Tuesday.
Yeah. The topic of time zones and daylight savings has changed for everyone just recently. That's another connection thing. I mean, connecting with the time and being up to date with what the actual time is a challenging thing when daylight savings changes. And I'm really grateful that I have a really great app called Time Buddy on my phone, which has been amazing for keeping track of time zones all across the world for these things that I'm doing and connecting with people.
Heather, it's interesting with time zones because now my job for the last 4 or 5 years has been to connect with coaches around the world. Mm-hmm. And so we cover Europe, the Middle East, India, China, your time zone, Australia, New Zealand, although you're even farther east of them. And I've kind of gotten to the point where I've done so much work with so many people, I kind of stopped thinking about time zones. Mm-hmm. I kind of stopped thinking. I remember when I was young and thinking, wow, it was really weird to me to have somebody, thinking like, hey, it's 10 p.m. here and it's 8 a.m. there the next day. That's weird. I've kind of stopped because I do it so much. Stopped thinking of it that way. it's just morning time for them. And it may be Monday morning.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe because I connect so often this way, it doesn't really matter. If I'm working and I need to make a connection with even work related and it's 9 o'clock at night, I don't even think twice like, oh no, these are weird hours. They're just hours.
Yeah.
They, I've stayed up till midnight to do podcasts out of India. I've woken up at 3 a.m. to do them in Europe. I kind of don't even think about it anymore. It's just kind of fitting that naturally into the scheduling we have now. This one here, we started at 7 p.m. Central in, it's 1 p.m. for you, but it doesn't feel weird anymore. So I think the more you do it, the more you kind of spread across time zones. I also think people are getting more savvy with that, where people kind of expect in some ways, well, we're going to have to connect it at maybe an unusual time.
Yeah.
But I think people are getting more and more okay with that. So I wouldn't let that stop you either. When we think about podcasting and doing the time zone, I think it's pretty cool. It's already Monday for you.
Yeah.
and in years ago that would have felt weird, but today it's like, well, it's Monday. It's just a day. You're awake. I'm awake. Let's talk.
And luckily I work from home and I can shift my work schedule around it.
Yeah, no, right on. And I've done Gallup as a flex time employer, which means I kind of set my own schedule. I've done podcast at work, middle of the afternoon, because that's what worked for the host or for the guest. And so I don't know. I don't have any. It's weird. I don't have any sense of time zones anymore because I do so much work that way. So it's good to just connect if you can find it and make it work. You do need some hours to sleep. I mean, you apparently probably won't sleep very much this week, but you do need some hours to get that sleep in. But typically I'm connecting from anytime from the moment I wake up till the moment I go to bed.
Yeah. For this one, I used Acuity Scheduling, which was a really great way of helping book in times for everyone. And it actually allows for the daylight saving time change, which is awesome. It still gets a little bit confusing when everyone adjusts that, which happens during the middle of this event after day one. So everything shifts. But yeah, I kind of think about it just being slightly different times of a day, not really worrying too much whether it's yesterday, tomorrow, whichever day it was. Just fitting that in and being able to set it so that it fits my schedule, so that I'm not actually waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning for these, just because I think I'd struggle quite hard if I wasn't getting enough sleep.
I've done some for Europe. I've done some early. I'm way better staying up late. I'd rather much stay up till midnight and do it late than to try and wake up early in the morning. And I remember I did a podcast with, I think it was out of our London office. And I had woken up maybe 4, and I think we went live at 5. And I did the whole podcast. And as I was interviewing the last person, we were doing 15-minute interviews to get some customer testimonials. Mm-hmm. And as I wrapped up the last one, I was kind of chit-chatting, and I said, well, I'm just going to shut the broadcast off now. And I looked down and I never clicked the broadcast button because there was no live audience.
Yeah.
I didn't have any accountability, right? Normally my live audience would say, hey, we can't see the video,
Yeah.
But because I didn't have a live audience that morning, we weren't broadcasting. We were broadcasting, but we weren't, so to speak, right? We were using the broadcasting features, but I hadn't advertised it.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, I just interviewed these people, and now I have to tell them that I didn't capture any of it. And that was definitely a sleep deal, right? I was still kind of fuzzy and hazy and foggy from an early morning. So yeah, it's not always as great. Maybe for me to do it early in the morning, but fun nonetheless.
Yeah. It kind of breaks down the barrier too. Like you're saying, you can pull people in from all around the world, and that's amazing. Luke's got a public holiday. He's in Australia, so that's where he's based. And yeah, that's awesome.
I wish tomorrow was a public holiday for me. We need to have a few more here in the U.S. I could. We have a record number of folks starting, new hires starting tomorrow for us.
Okay. Busy day.
So it'll be a big day.
Yeah.
Big day.
Yeah.
Big day tomorrow. Yeah.
That's awesome. And on the topic of summits, though, in June, there is one for Gallup. There is the Clifton Strengths Summit.
Yeah. So June 3rd, 4th, and 5th here in Omaha, which is great. We put on a summit every year. 1,500 sold out last year.
Awesome.
All around Clifton Strengths, right? The strengths program, right? We have this assessment you can take, and it helps you gives you these top 5 or all 34 words that help describe you and what you're best at. And so we get a lot of people very positive. It's super fun to get, that many people in an area that are like-minded. It would be like a pod fest or a podcast movement kind of atmosphere, if you're thinking of that. So super great. This year, we're going to get a chance to do our first live webcast or podcast out of the summit. So Wednesday afternoon, summit officially ends. And then we have a breakout in the afternoon where my co-host and I are going to be live on a stage. And we're going to turn the thing into a rock concert is what we're going to do. We're going to have rock music playing. We're going to get them all fired up. It's going to kind of be, we want it to kind of be a hooting and hollering kind of crazy, and we'll have some material that we'll have a section of it that we stream. The rest will just be for folks that are there. But I'm excited to be able to do that on a kind of on a platform, on a stage, and do it that way. That'll be pretty cool.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's amazing that it's so. Has this one sold out for this year? Is that what you said?
No, not yet. No, there's still space. I think we're 800 or 900, so we probably got 600 more to go.
Cool.
And we moved the date, so it'll be interesting to see if it sells out or not. But no, folks can still sign up for it. It's not too terribly expensive. I think $600 or $700 for the week. Yep. You just got to get to Omaha.
Yeah.
And if you can be here, we have a ton of fun.
Yeah, the in-person things are amazing. It's the Clifton Strengths thing is a really great way. I've heard Emily talking about it, how she, the things, the more you know about yourself, the more that you can use your strengths to your best ability and then shine bright and light up the world, like I like to say. So, yeah, I really think that's an amazing thing. But then on the topic of in-person meetups and things, podcast movement, all those things, they don't happen here in New Zealand. So that's why the Sunshine Summit's here to help bring people together who can't necessarily do it in person.
It's a great idea. Yeah. And, these kinds of virtual summits are always really hard. People want to do it. It's hard for them to get together. I applaud you, Heather, for putting one of these together. They're just hard to do. They're a lot of work. I don't think most people realize just how much work it takes. We've been talking about this for a couple months now, all the advertising, all those pieces that have to go into it. Even a local meetup, I'm sure if you said, well, you're rural to begin with, so your numbers are pretty low. What's the nearest big city for you, and how big is it?
That is a good question. It is a city, so it's on the map as a city. I think I don't know how many thousands of people there are there, but yeah, the village that's closest to me is very small. It's like a main street and a couple of shops, and that's it. Yeah. Just want to
probably not a lot of podcasters, right? You're not, there's not podcasters rolling all over the place there. You're running into them. We probably have, I bet if I reached out, I bet we have 15 or 20 in the Omaha area. I could probably put a podcast meetup together in Omaha and have it pretty decently attended. We're 1 million in the metro. So, we've got some numbers, right? But you're kind of isolated. And so, virtually might be one of the ways you get it done.
Yeah.
And this is the second or third year you've done this now?
This is the third event, second year. Yeah. Okay. And each time trying to do something a little bit different. And I've connected with some different tech to help get through this summit and add a little bit more to it. So in the beginning, I actually just recently learned how to use DaVinci Resolve to make the little animation that was at the beginning with Sunshine Summit March 2019. But yeah, just want to do a shout out because Emily is in the chat.
Yeah, she's joined us. She has tracked us down. Yeah. So Emily, welcome to the chat room.
And she's just finished up, I think, at Podfest. She was just there.
They did. I saw some pictures. I stalk Dave Jackson, and so I saw some pictures coming from his feed. Emily too, probably. And they looked like they had a good time. I was a little jealous that I didn't go down to Orlando. I am planning on being at Podcast Movement in, I think that's August. I think coming up this year. So that's actually 2 slow weeks for me at Gallup. Those are the only 2 weeks I really get to take some time off. So the timing worked out perfect. Philadelphia was not great timing last year, but Orlando this year works out well. So I do plan to be at Podcast Movement this late summer. Looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Dean just said that Wellington would be about 400,000 people, give or take 20,000 people. And that's a little bit from me, but that's our capital of New Zealand, and that's actually where I go and have Podcast Brunch Club, and I did that on purpose because it has the numbers, and I'd be able to get a group of people to come together and talk about podcasts. So
how long does it take you to get to Wellington then?
2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's not too bad. That's not too bad. My daughter's 2 hours away at college, so I know that kind of drive. You don't want to do it all the time, but once a month or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, nice to get into the city. Sure, you stop by a few shops that you can't get out in the country.
Definitely enjoy the change of scenery. Plus, it's like the bottom of the North Island, so there's the beach and the harbour and everything there that I don't have where I am. So, yeah, it's awesome.
Listen, you live in the most beautiful country in the world.
Thank you.
Maybe only Switzerland or Austria would rival it, just from beauty. And you've got everything there. So you live in a pretty great place. I mean, I think New Zealand's probably what was one of the best kept secrets until the whole Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings thing.
Yeah.
Now everybody wants to go to New Zealand, but you've got a pretty good thing going on down there.
Thank you. I enjoy it, and it's actually not that hard to get somewhere too, because it is so small. And islands, you can drive and you can be at the beach or the mountains, or we have a desert road. So, we've got all different types of terrain and stuff, and it's within reach. Yeah.
Well, the water's going the wrong direction, by the way. If it was getting colder and the water levels were going down, you have a whole continent, right, that just works off of New Zealand. You got just the tip of the continent that's out there. So global warming's not going to help, unfortunately, but
No.
but you could be the world's 8th continent there on New Zealand. There's quite a bit of land out there, buried underwater.
I did hear about that. And Emily says that she would have bucket list item is getting to hang out with both Jim and Heather at a live podcasting event.
Yeah, in New Zealand. That would be, you see, that's my bucket list.
Wow.
So hanging out with you and Emily in, I don't know, what's the coolest city in New Zealand, do you think? If you were to pick one of the cities, one of the three, which one would you pick?
I'm gonna get in trouble. I'll pick Wellington just because then it's accessible to both islands, and I know that's still not fair to everyone in the South Island, but I'd pick that because, yeah. Is it? It's the capital, right? So pretty easy to get to. Yeah. All right, we got to plan a meetup. We're putting it on the map right now. We got to plan a meetup in Wellington. That sounds awesome. God, that'd be great. It's a long way for us. It's a long trip. It is. I need to have a family holiday. I haven't had one in a really long time. And so actually the US is on my bucket list of places to go to because I've made incredible connections across the whole of the US, which is going to be a crazy trip to try and catch up with everybody. But it is something that I really want to work hard towards to being able to make that happen. Yeah, no, it'd be good to see you here. You wouldn't come to Omaha, obviously. Like there's other great places in the United States to go to, but maybe when you come here, you can get close, Chicago or Denver or something like that. We'll work something out. I'll make it happen. Yeah, no, it'd be great. Yeah. It'd be great. Yeah. And Dean said he'd go to Nelson. That's just him. I have to say that Nelson has the most sunshine hours for the whole of New Zealand. So it'll be interesting to catch up with people who live off the grid there because that is the most ideal place in New Zealand to be off the grid, not where I am. So. Yeah, and Nelson's not too far from Wellington, right? But because it faces to the north that it gets those sunshine. By the way, the fact that the city that gets the most sunshine hours is pretty great because you're so dependent on solar, right? That's why you know that. Yep, it is. And I look at the reports and I kind of have a cry every year that we're near the bottom of the list because we do not generate the most sunshine hours at all. Oh, man. Nelson. That looks like it's nestled in a really nice place. The Marlborough Sounds and Nelson and all around that area, the top of the South Island, is amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that looks like a little bit of heaven right there. Yeah. So maybe we should be there. Nelson, that's where we're going. We're going to go to Nelson. Cool. It's decided. Yeah. Steph is in the chat also, and Steph said that she's in a mega city of 20 million population in Shanghai, and she's part of a podcast support group, which a few weeks ago got 3 people. So she's excited to get it started. And I think it's with anything, there can be millions of people, but bringing them together is the challenge. Yeah, just because you have millions. Yeah. Right. It doesn't, and I've learned with these kind of meetups and stuff that you got to have a really good agenda, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't, if you just say, let's get together, that may actually work one time to say, let's just get together. It brings people out of the woodwork. But if you're not providing value, I mean, most people are really busy. Yes. And if you don't give them a reason to
separate and give you some time for their, for what the time they're giving up, they'll never come back.
Yeah.
And so, I've told people, you want meetups to be fun and casual and, light and all those things, but you also need to have a really solid, if you're going to plan one of these, put a really solid agenda together and give them a reason to be there. And, say, hey, we're going to get together and it's going to be casual, but we're going to talk about the plan is to talk about this, whatever this is. And even if it deviates from it, at least you got a plan. Yeah. And I've been trying to start an Omaha meetup forever. And it's coming up with the plan and executing it that's been hard for me. I don't necessarily need it because I got such a great network around me to connect with. I think about, all the folks that we have that come out and watch us live on Ask the Podcast Coach on Saturday morning. That's a great community, right?
Yeah.
So plus the other podcasts that I do, my friends at Gallup that podcast with me. So I've got a great support group. So it's hard, for me, it's like, oh, do I really want to spend a whole bunch of time, creating another podcasters meetup group? I'm not sure I need one. It's the right thing to do. I need to get it pulled together.
Yeah. On that note, then, just talking about how you've got a great support network, that is awesome and really important for how we go along our journeys, because whatever we're doing, whatever we're creating, whatever work, life in general, we just need people in our corner cheering us on, giving us feedback. And it's hard, like you were saying before, about when you didn't have the live audience for the accountability, not having that feedback loop to tell you that it wasn't getting broadcast. So you've got the live chats that you have for your sessions, but then you've just recently launched a Discord server.
Yeah. My audience kept asking me, like, well, when are you going to be on Discord? Yes, I just fought it for the longest time. I may be the worst podcaster in the world because I fight my audience on stuff they want to do. There's been a bunch of things I've been slow to, just been like, video RSS feed was one of those. The audience was like, hey, can you make your video? I don't want to go to YouTube. Yeah. And I'm like, just go to YouTube. Like, come on. And like, we don't want to do this. And so it took me a while to get there. It took me a while to get to Discord as well. And so if you go to theaverageguy.tv/Discord, I kind of made that easy to go to and remember. And I don't know, we probably got 30 folks that have joined us out there now. It's not really active yet, but I think it will be. So I'm not, the audience wanted it. It's their job to populate it. I'm just there to help. Right. So I'm not going to take the blame. If nobody comes out there and talks, I'm not going to take the blame for it.
I think Discord is one of those hidden gem things. It's something that is like been a platform for gamers to connect with each other and such. And there is a whole plethora of different types of servers on Discord. But creating one for your community is kind of this amazing way of bringing people together in a way that's not Facebook and it's not other platforms. And it reminds me of like old chat rooms, kind of. It's like you can create the little rooms on the side, or the themes that you're going to talk about, and then have that chat through there. It can get a little bit hard to keep up with it when it's a larger server and there's a lot of chat happening, but I really like it. I enjoy that. I've tried Slack and a few other ones, but Discord is kind of my platform of preference.
Yeah, I tried Slack too, and I think we even tried a Slack group for the podcast, and it just didn't. It felt too walled. Like a walled garden. It just felt too heavy. I am in a couple Slack groups that I find a lot of value in. But Discord seemed to be a little bit better and a little bit easier. It takes a little bit more management to kind of, because it's open and public, you do kind of have to kind of keep an eye on it from time to time. So far, so good. I think we've been in it for 4 weeks, maybe. Yeah. 4 or 5 weeks, I think. And it's still pretty good.
That's good. Luke in the chat said, "Rip Blab."
Always got to be. There's always got to be that one person that mentions Blab in the conversation. That's pretty awesome. We tested a few other ones that I think SteamYard and some of the other ones that have been coming out. That Blab legacy has lived on. Yeah. I don't know if it'll ever generate the kind of momentum. Blab had a lot of momentum. And I don't know, that time is maybe come and gone. There's these services like Zoom and Appearin, what you're using right now, Google Hangouts. Microsoft is making a big run at this with Teams. So, that door may be closing for some of those things. I think the important part is you connect where it works. Yeah. I'm not in Appear.in very, very much, but you were like, hey, let's do that. Okay. Yeah, well, that's fine with me. It doesn't matter where we connect. I could do, I can do just about anything.
Yeah.
So the important part, I think, is you get connected.
Yeah. What I like about Appearin is that it's fairly lightweight. It doesn't tax my system, which is not terribly high tech, high spec, and I don't have the fastest processor or anything like that. So I think my CPU is at a high 42.1% right now doing the stream. So.
That's a good point. I wonder, because for me, it's always been the camera that's been the taxing device, not necessarily the service I've been using.
Yeah.
And maybe Appearin is not. I don't know. Maybe it's using different drivers or something. But my CPU utilization is very, very low for this. So they must be doing something with the video to optimize it or something along those lines, because it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, it seems to have been pretty good because my guests are all very international. We had Ducky from Russia this morning, and it just seemed to be, I tried Discord, but that seemed to be a little bit temperamental. And last year when I did Google Hangouts in March, it didn't like me at all. So I had problems with that. And that's probably on my end with bandwidth and things. But I'm sending my video direct to the stream, and it's, like you say, finding what works. And I've been very grateful that everyone's been okay with connecting through Appearin and giving that one a whirl.
Yeah. Well, it's through a web browser, and I think it's probably HTML5, and so the controls were easy to use. I think you get up to 4. Are you paying? Are you on a paid service, or is it just free?
I think we're in the free one because I haven't had more than 4 guests. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, shoot, and then you're broadcasting it out through OBS, right?
Yes.
And so that's how it's making its way out to YouTube.
Yep.
So. It's a pretty great way to get it done. There's been some discussion on Hangouts of whether it's going to make, Hangouts on Air or the ones that feed YouTube Live, if that platform is going to make the cut at Google. And they haven't been real clear about this at Google. We know the consumer version is going away, but in favor of their paid solution, which kind of makes sense. But they want to Google wants to encourage people to create content to put on YouTube. That's what they want, right? So it seemed pretty crazy to me they'd cut that off. But I have been looking at different solutions for, if they do cut it off, what do I do? I hadn't thought about Appearin, and now that we're doing this, kind of great. It looks good on the live stream, and so far so good. This has been a great conversation. It's been no flaws, no problems.
I hope not. I hope that it hasn't got a little bit glitchy. How I'm running the audio through is through Voice Meter Banana, and that has given me some issue in the past where it'll glitch out and possibly go a bit digital. I think in the last stream this morning, it cut like a bit of a segment out of what I said. So hopefully it's been okay. But I've been drooling over like getting a Mac just so I can have like the Rogue Amiga software.
Just do it. Do it. Get out there and buy one. Yes, you're thinking the right. Well, I'm a gadget guy, so of course I'm going to say that. Right?
And on the topic of gadgets and things, I have a Samsung S9, and just this week it pushed the update of the Android One UI thing on me, and I just was like, "Oh, I don't know if I like this interface. I don't know."
I know there should be an option to just say, "I want to take all the security options, but I want to keep my UI." Right? I mean that should still be a thing, but cell phone companies don't do that, right? They want to move you in the direction and I get why they do it, but that is hard. My daughter, her and I are both iPhone users, and she will not update her phone. She does not want. She's like, nope, it's right where it's at. I don't want my battery to start getting killed. I'm not gonna let them degrade my phone. So she's very set on not taking any upgrades.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, but
okay. I wasn't sure how you feel.
All right. Okay. Those are security upgrades, by the way, as well. So not like Windows. With Windows, you can kind of hold off some of the UI upgrades and just take security upgrades. But no, with iPhone or Android, as you found out, you're taking the whole shot, right? You take, whether you like it or not, you're taking it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was one of those things that you kind of have to be a bit mindful of, I guess, unless you're just really ready and willing to update whenever they roll them out. I did update OBS to 23.02, I think, which is the latest version, and I made sure I backed up everything beforehand because I've put a lot of effort into making these scenes for this summit, and they just launched the update just recently. So there's a whole lot of things to think about there. And then with my phone, I accidentally just pushed the update button and realized, oh gosh, now I've got a whole different user interface. Cool.
You should be fine. I think there's probably a way to go back and get things the way you had them before, or what have you. It takes a little work.
Yeah.
But there should be a way. I think.
Maybe they'll roll up another update at some point, and sort of once they've heard from customer feedback and how everyone's dealing with the new UI, they might maybe. I'm just wishful thinking here.
You know, it's funny because as a PC guy, I should love Android just for those reasons, but I need my phone really, you know, for the most part, my podcasting computer, the one I'm talking on right now, that is the one I protect the most. Mm-hmm. Like I don't do crazy things on it. I rarely install stuff on it. I don't, you know, it's my podcasting PC. I need to have it available here. It can't go down. I need to have it.
Yeah.
Then I have a whole bunch of other PCs around that you can see even in the screenshot. There's a bunch of monitors. I got a bunch of PCs around. Those are the ones I test on, that I hack on. But my phone, like that is it's quickly becoming my primary computing device for email and communication. And it's what's funny is I make maybe 2 calls a month on the thing. Maybe. It's a phone, right? And I make very few calls on it. But I need the phone to just work. And in the old days of Android, it was a real struggle to kind of keep the thing working, and it had some kind of weird stuff going along with it.
Yeah. So
I've gone completely iPhone and moved on to the Apple Watch, and those have been 2 really good productivity tools for me.
That's awesome.
And I don't mess with them. I don't configure them. I don't change. I don't even have. My daughter makes fun of me because I have the same screensaver on my phone that came stock. Like she's like, Dad, you don't change anything. And I'm like, yeah, I don't need to. Why would I? It just needs to work, you know?
What Apple Watch do you have? Sorry, I did not up to date with.
Yeah, I didn't say. I have the series or the version 4, the newest one. So I thought it was time. Like I had been eyeing it, you know, through 1, 2, and 3. And they added a new EKG feature on the newest phone. And, you know, I turned 50 this year, and there's heart problems in my family, and I take pretty good care of myself. But I thought that was the thing that pushed me over the edge. Like, nope, good to kind of have a regular check, really good heart rate monitor.
Yeah.
Some really great features. I compete on it, workouts with my co-host for Home Gadget Geeks, Mike Weger.
Yeah.
We do some competing on it. So it's been a good purchase. They're not cheap.
Oh.
That stuff's expensive.
Yeah. But to be honest, some of the features on the Apple Watch 4 made me consider that I should have swapped over to Apple, because it is really amazing. I haven't had a watch, an actual analog or digital watch, in a very long time. I've been using my phone, and I went through a run of dropping my phone and broke it, so I ended up upgrading to a Samsung S9. But when I did that, I was looking for a smartwatch to go with it, just so that I could get a few notifications. I didn't want it to be terribly in my face and annoying, because I kind of need to disconnect a lot and not really have all that going on. So I managed to get a Fitbit, which is...
That's such a great call, by the way. I was going to say, have you looked at Fitbit? Because they're the best smartwatch that's not very smart.
Yeah.
So it's a good call.
Yeah. I managed to pick that up, I think, this late last year, somewhere around there. And I love it for just keeping track of things. It's terrible how much I sleep, just going back to that thing, tracking out how very little I sleep.
Yeah. Well, Luke says, he said, I thought about getting a smartwatch, but I don't really want a phone on my wrist. Well, that's the beauty of the Fitbit, is that the Fitbit really gets everything that you need right. So notifications limited, but notifications are there. You get heart rate, and you got to buy the HR version. Yeah. But you get heart rate, you get steps, you get GPS, you get all those things that you want, but you don't get the complexity of like an Apple Watch or even a Samsung watch.
Yeah.
And so for most people, the best smartwatch for them is that Fitbit, and Garmin has a Vivo line, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
That is another great, their fitness trackers are really good at just fitness, and you can still get some limited capabilities. But man, I could do like math on this thing. Like I mean, it's like a computer on this thing, right?
It's a
Way more
powerhouse.
powerful than I need. Way,
Yeah.
to be honest, way more powerful. I think if I were to do it again, I had a Fitbit for a long time. I got enticed by this thing and that crazy EKG thing on there.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't going to spend that money, I would definitely spend it on a Fitbit for sure. That's the right way to get in on this.
Yeah. The other thing was that I was missing phone calls because I would have turned my phone on to do not disturb for podcasting or work or whatever else, and I'd forget to turn it back on. But with the Fitbit, it lets that notification come through, so it just vibrates in a non-offensive way. So if I was still on a call, no one else would hear it, but I'd know that I got that there. And so it's been amazing for that.
The Apple Watch has a swipe up, and then it has a sleep, and you can set like how long or when I wake up, to turn off notifications.
Yeah.
So you can kind of set some of those to say, like, I have it set to don't send me another notification until I leave the house in the morning. Like, I don't want to, morning time, I need to wake up. I want to have my breakfast. I don't want to be bothered by my watch going off. And I have been sleeping with this. So I have a huge sleep problem. I just don't sleep enough. And so I've been trying to track why. Why am I used to be such a great sleeper. Why am I not? So I'm using this app called Sleep Watch.
Okay.
And it's starting now that I've got 4, 5, 8 weeks of tracking on it. It's starting to give me these suggestions now. And it's like,
Cool.
hey, if you get in bed around 10:45, that's your optimal time, and gives you enough, or it started putting my calorie count, like, hey, on the days when you burn at least 650 calories working out, your sleep patterns are better.
Wow.
Well, yeah, that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
You're like, this is interesting. So it's helped.
That's awesome. I love that. And I've enjoyed getting this sort of tracking on my sleep history too, which then it helps me not get so wound up about the fact, why aren't I feeling so great the next day? It's like, oh yeah, well actually I did only get that many hours of sleep, or I did go to bed really late for the last 4 nights in a row or something horrendous like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's getting to the point where it's reminding me now, like, hey,
bedtime.
You might want to think about, it's winking at me. You might want to think about wrapping this up. And you're like, oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder. Like, it's a good reminder to get in bed. And I'm encouraged by the data I'm getting back from it.
That's cool.
So it was weird at first sleeping with a watch on, but the more you do it, the more you get used to it.
I have to say that's one thing that I found with wearing the Fitbit too, is like that it flashes because you turn your wrist. And so if I turn my wrist in my sleep, the light flashes.
It does. Yeah. In fact, it was really, really cold. We've had this polar vortex over this part of the United States. It's been super cold. And so I for a couple nights I went to bed with a hoodie on, and I put the hood up, and just to kind of help stay warm. And the hoodie covered the watch, and I didn't have that problem. And I thought, I need maybe a little wristband at night to put over it to kind of block it out.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Something like if I had a really big hair tie thing that I could stick over it, because the Fitbit's not too wide, which is awesome.
Yeah. In the 70s, we had headbands and wristbands that they all wore. Nobody'd wear that today, but maybe you could find that somewhere, even just a light little piece of fabric that's thick that would just block that light out. Because I have noticed that too. I've rolled over and it's blinding me like, in the middle of the night. So that is one of the drawbacks to sleeping with a watch.
Yeah. But they are handy. And Steph said she had a Fitbit before they had the wrist rash issue back in 2012. She loved it, but stopped while they were sorting out the problem. So, yeah.
Oh, I've gone through a bunch. I did the Microsoft Band.
Okay.
When that came out in 2014, I had the Band 1 and the Band 2. And in fact, it's still plugged in up there. I can't unplug it. I've got a Garmin running watch, a Garmin 220. That's just not a smart watch, but it was really expensive, super light, just a great watch. And then I've gone through various Fitbits to kind of get there. So, but I think, I'm in the Apple ecosystem now. I think I'm good, but you could go with any of those. I mean, I always just tell people, find the watch that fits your lifestyle the best.
Yeah. You were saying about challenges too, so you've got them on the Apple Watch now as well. So was that Fitbit type challenges things that you were doing before and trying to transfer that over? I think I saw that you had an episode on that. of Home Gadget
Yeah,
Geeks?
it didn't work.
Okay.
It required me.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't automatic. It required me to do something. And if you're ever required, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, if you're hoping I'm going to do something on a regular basis, except podcasting, you're you're gonna be disappointed. And so I had to remember to sync the data, and I just couldn't do it. The bummer is I had probably, I don't know, 10 listeners from Home Gadget Geek as part of a group on Fitbit.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm missing that group. I just don't, it doesn't interface as well. And so I do kind of miss that group. The Apple ecosystem is not great for, speaking of connections. I don't think it's great for connecting to people.
Okay.
I don't think it works very well for that. The Fitbit community I thought was the best.
Yeah.
And so I kind of miss that. I would not be opposed to wearing 2 watches, by the way. I did that for about 2 months where I had my Garmin on this side and a Fitbit on this side. I did it. People looked at me funny.
Yeah.
Like, Jim, what are you doing?
All the
but
tech.
yeah, well, one of the things I've thought about is getting a Fitbit that I just make a pedometer out of. So it's not on my wrist, but it's on my body, and it would track. I would still get steps and some of those kinds of things, attach it to my watch and hide it all day. I don't really need it. So that's been another thought. And I think one of those companies has a pedometer like Gadget that you could get that would be that way. That would then still sync with the Fitbit app. And so there's been some thoughts on that too.
Yeah. I do like the prompts as well because it does help me. I've set my mind so that I get a prompt at 6 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 6 o'clock at night because it helps me break up my day in a way that works for me. And it's a simple reminder that says make it happen, which I can apply it to anything, but it checks in with me at those times, which is awesome. And Steph and Liberty, you said about a good rule for sleep is no tech in bed during bedtime. And Steph agreed that she stopped screen time 3 to 4 hours before bed.
I would love to think I could do that, but that makes my heart just start beating really fast, thinking about not having the evening time to do my own. That's when I do my podcast, my own podcast stuff. That's when I connect with people. That's when I do some crypto work, cryptocurrency stuff. That's when I do that. I talk to folks on Discord. I do these kinds of podcasts. So I'd love to think I could shut it off. Heather, I don't know about you, but I don't know what I'd do with 3 hours, to be honest, without a computer. Like, that's how bad it is. And I would be like, I don't know what I would do with myself. So it would be a great goal. If you can do it and it works for you, by all means, do it.
Yeah.
I would really struggle. That would be hard.
Like you, I'm a bit of a night person. I stay up and I work in the night. I get a lot done because sometimes during the day there's a lot other stuff that takes my time because phone calls and things, and then I have to do extra work because I own a business. So you got to do things, sort of work twice as hard when you're doing all the things as part of it. And the blurred line between home and work gets very, very blurred. But yeah, you got to draw the line where it works for you and keep track of it, I think, in whatever shape or form that happens. But yeah, it's been really awesome.
It's hard. It's hard.
It is hard. It's been really awesome talking about these things with you today, Jim. Home Gadget Geeks is a place where everyone can hear more about gadgets and geeks, geeky tech stuff. Geekery that happens weekly. Yeah. And they can hang out with you in the live. I was just... Liberty Dude said the tech guru that doesn't want to separate from tech, a pure sign of someone that likes what he does.
Yeah, well, I really do like what I do. I think I have, no offense, SP, but I think I have the best tech community on the planet. That just the nicest, most helpful, most less trolling, no argumenting. Is that a word? Argumenting? No, like we in the Home Gadget Geek, and it's really a combination of a couple different communities that we put together. One of the best tech communities ever been a part of, and so it's just super cool to be able to speak to them on a regular basis and have that kind of community out there. So helpful and so respectful, which I think is hard to find in 2019.
I think
so. It's great having it.
Yeah. That's amazing. I have up on the screen a list of places where people can find you. You're at J Collison on Twitter. You've got the Average Guy group on Facebook. There'll be a link on the website, I think, for the Average Guy TV Discord. Is that what you call
or
it?
just go to theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Not
Cool.
very hard.
Yeah. And there's your YouTube. You've got the video RSS feed as well for people to catch it that way, which is amazing. And you're on Patreon. And back when I talked to you in January 2018, we talked about Patreon, and they were able to help you get the new mixer because your other one got a bit drunk or had a drink.
Well, yeah, I spilled a whole glass of wine on the thing, and it was a 2-year-old mixer. It was a really nice Mackie mixer. They're very durable, but not apparently they're not alcohol friendly.
No.
It was funny how quickly, like, you spill wine inside a mixer and those knobs get sticky really fast.
Wow.
So yeah, Patreon subscribers help replace a $300 mixer. So I always appreciate the support of folks out there, and I'm sure you got some great supporters as well on Patreon. So I encourage them to get over there and support you.
Thank you. And that's what I was just going to say, is that I really appreciate the patrons of Sunshine and Power Cuts, because they helped get sunshinesummit.live. They helped me secure the domain name and that for the Sunshine Summit. So they're helping us shine bright and bring connections to the world through this event. So a huge shout out to them. Thank you.
You bet, Heather. Thanks for let me just say this before we wrap it. Thank you for having me on. I enjoy. I mean, you're part of that circle of that awesome community that we talked about through the various connections. You know, it's not just one podcast, but I've got a couple, and then I do a couple with other people, and I do some at work, and I actually have listeners that are in the whole circle.
Yeah.
You know, and they listen to all those things. And so thanks I really appreciate it. It's been an honor to be on chatting with you today and talking about connections and some of those things. So I appreciate you having me on.
I really appreciate you being here. I'm grateful for SP for introducing us in the first place, that we had that. Thank you for welcoming me onto Home Gadget Geeks last year and giving me a whirl of some person from New Zealand with a random off-grid setup.
It was super great, by the way. It was super great.
Yeah. And I also wanted to say thank you for your support back at International Podcast Day in September last year. It was awesome to see you in the live chat there. And that was a challenge, going live by myself for an hour. So,
well, if you ever need somebody to talk with, just call me. I only do live. So love to just sit there and that's all I do with Dave Jackson, as I just talk. So if you ever get in a jam again, just call me. I'll be there anytime.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Jim. And everybody, do check out what Jim has to offer. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for the next day of the Sunshine Summit.
Great. Thanks, Heather.